My name is Nilay Bhagat. I am a senior manager in the data engineering and analytics department in the IT organization at American Airlines. My responsibilities include the technical implementation of our governance, privacy, sharing, as well as certain data engineering pipelines for certain lines of businesses. In today's session, we'll touch a little bit on our overall data governance journey, but more specifically talk about how we came to a conclusion on data observability, and more specifically data observability with Monte Carlo and with Databricks. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we kind of dive into some of the governance efforts and governance journey, I wanted to give a quick overview on our overall data journey so far. And just historically, Americans had a very deep history with technology and with data in general. So I don't know if a lot of you know, but Sabre was actually invented in the 60s at American. And that was the first time we actually had computerized bookings. And not only did that start a journey and history for technology, it started our data journey as well. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about that era because unfortunately I was not there for a lot of it, but I will move on to the next era, which is kind of not just me, but I'm assuming a lot of you also had your formative years in data during this time, where in the 90s, early 2000s, even in the early 2010s, to be honest, where the focus was a lot on centralizing data, warehousing, reporting, dashboards, predicting based on history. And while that time was good, you know, we really got upended and things started to change about 5, 6, 7 years with this massive movement to the cloud when it comes to, at least from a data perspective. And no different for us too. We kind of started our Databricks journey just like in the late 2010s, like 2018, 2019. And just over the last about 3 years or so, we have grown our size and instance by like 10 times just in the last 3 years. And we were big to begin with, so it's been pretty massive. And obviously in the last year and a half, I don't think any organization is out there that is gonna not say that they don't have a generative AI or a strategy to even expand AI. And same thing for us too, right? That's also part of what we want to do. But I will say this, maybe I'm an old school data person, but I know some of you are out there too. AI is only going to be as good as your data. And the outcome of whatever you produce from your models, your generative AI outputs, are going to be dependent on how well your data is managed, how trusted your data is, if you put proper governance and quality on top of your data. So that's my perspective. So the good thing though is that just a few years back, we kind of started our journey of evolving our overall data governance strategy itself. And when we kind of came together as a group to talk about this, we came up with 6 core capabilities that defined our data governance initiatives. And the first one, let's just talk about literacy first. And typically for us, the way we see it is that's more of a culture, more of a mindset than anything else. So while we have had a very rich tradition of using data to make decisions, what we want to do as a part of this initiative and focus is make sure that the data is easily discoverable. If the data is available and discoverable, we want to make sure that there's context that people get before they use the data. We want to have conversations around data. And once people know that, hey, this is the data I want, this is how I want to use it, we provide the right tools, resources, training for them to properly use that data. But before that, we also need to ensure that our Data is cataloged, our assets are cataloged, our business concepts are defined, and that's where the metadata management piece is super crucial. So we want to move that as left as possible, as early on as possible in our development lifecycle. I'll talk a lot about quality. Quality is all about trust for us. We'll have a little deeper dive into that in a bit. We are also very thoughtful, and we put a lot of importance on making sure our data stewards have the right resources and tools to effectively manage the data that they own, empower them. And then also from a privacy perspective, we also want to make sure that we promote the responsible care and use for our data, ensure we are adhering to compliance and regulations. And then finally, I do want to touch a little bit upon data as a product. I believe this is not just us, but other organizations too have that as a part of their strategies. And for us, the way we see it is all of these other consideration capabilities sort of coming together into what we think is going to define data as a product. And the goal essentially is, hey, let's treat data as a product so we maximize that value that we get from that data as a product. So now that we've talked a little bit about governance, let's focus a little bit on quality. And similar to us evolving our overall governance program, we also wanted to evolve how we think about quality in general. And while we have quality embedded in several pipelines, several applications, a lot of times it's either a fix to an issue that might have previously happened, and so we ensure that, hey, this doesn't happen again, or we put in a solution that might be either localized to an application or a pipeline to a team. So we wanted to move more towards a holistic enterprise solution. And in order to do that, what we came up with some core considerations that we needed to take in mind before we came to the conclusion of what that enterprise solution was going to be. These considerations are probably not new. You've probably seen them in several industry journals or best practices documents out there. But this is also what we settled in. Timeliness is the first one. Essentially, is my data there? Is it there when I expect it to be there? Now, I will tell you, this is super important to us at American, because I know for a fact we have a lot of people that actually want their data before they want their coffee in the morning. So very crucial for us to get that right. Completeness is all the data there, right? This is more from a volume perspective. It kind of goes hand in hand with the timeliness piece as well. Consistency, is the data consistent, not just within the data set that it's a part of, but across different data sets as well. And we've kind of taken that definition of consistency and expanded it a little bit, because we don't just have one data platform, we have a couple of platforms. So we want to ensure that the answers you get from one platform are consistent with the answers you get from another platform. So just expanded that definition out a little bit. Integrity, we typically refer to it from a referential integrity perspective. This is where we like to ensure that any cardinalities, relationships that we've defined between entities are executed correctly, right? For example, I don't want to have any orphans when I have a parent-child relationship between two entities. Not having duplicates based on certain keys defined, that all kind of falls under the integrity bucket. Validity is all about ensuring that the data is coming in the right format, it's coming in the right data type, precisions on the data type itself. And lastly, accuracy. This is kind of where things get interesting. This is all about embedding business rules, custom monitors, ensuring that the data is accurate. It's a little subjective, but then there's also an objective piece to this when you actually compare the data to a source of record or a source of reference. Think about like the states that we have, and there's a reference for a 2-letter state code. You compare that to it, and then you sort of get a thumbs up saying, hey, look, this looks right, this is accurate. So let's take a closer look at how some of these considerations helped us come to a conclusion or solution for data observability. Taking a step back a little bit on observability and quality, our overall goal is we want to make sure we improve resiliency and we build trust. I've talked about trust quite a bit. And the line that I have after that, I'll talk about it a little bit more over here too, is we want to make sure we identify the issue before they detect it. I'll get into that in a second. But before that, this is, again, a very generic, very typical data lifecycle. We have producers, engineers, curators, stewards, as well as the end consumers. And the thought here is that every group is responsible for the quality of the data that they produce or they're responsible for. And the goal is that that group that is responsible for that data and the quality of it identifies any issues with the data before anybody downline detects it. I know a lot of you have been in this situation where somebody's looked at the dashboard and say, that number doesn't look like the data is wrong, and that's not a really good, fun situation to be in, right? So that's kind of where our thought process is also. Diving a little bit deeper on the engineering and stewardship side, what we've done is kind of come up with who's responsible for what. And so from an engineering perspective, we feel like the freshness, volume, schema checks, by the way, all those three are available out of the box from Monte Carlo and Databricks. You connect and you can get all three observabilities in place. Format checks, we talked about the validity rules over here, referential integrity, any sort of other technical checks that we want to add, we feel like the engineering group should be responsible for that. Stewards, on the other hand, this is where the domain knowledge is. So any SQL level checks, custom monitors, anomaly detections, column level monitors that need to be added, all should be in the purview of the steward, and they should have the ability, and we need to empower them to be able to add those monitors. And lastly, what we also wanted was we wanted the stewards to have the ability to triage incidents, which for us, we feel like the stewards are in a really good spot because they sit right in between the engineering teams and the actual end consumers. So if there was any incidents, then the stewards could help triage it and get teams from the engineering side and the consumption side to understand what the issue was and to go ahead and fix it. All of this, we wanted it to be based on, and I know you can't see it, but we want this to be based on the fact that whatever product or tool we picked had to work with the existing platforms that we have. Now, we have a big presence on the Databricks side. We also have a warehouse, and a lot of the data is synced from Databricks to that warehouse. So it was important for us to have a product and tool, a solution that was vendor neutral. We also wanted to make sure it was cost effective from a scaling perspective, not just from the tools perspective, but also from the Databricks side as well, that our costs were not exploding when we added more monitors and more rules. And lastly, I think this is one of my favorite things, and you'll probably again hear me talk a lot about this, notifications and alerting. We wanted to ensure that whatever product we picked embedded with the existing notification tools and platforms that we already have. So now that we've kind of taken a closer look at how we kind of came to the data observability solution, and by the way, when we did POCs, we also looked at traditional data quality solutions and more modern data observability solutions like Monte Carlo, and we felt like we couldn't get to our goal with some of the traditional tools that we had for quality. Monte Carlo and Databricks, really fantastic partnership, native integration. We've been on the product for, gosh, even less than 6 months. We're already doing all the three rules: freshness, volume, schema changes. We have custom monitors in there. We have comparisons that we're already doing. So our journey has already started. I am super excited though about Unity and what it can open up in terms of possibilities for us once we actually have Unity fully enabled. We're kind of in the process of migrating it. Hopefully soon enough we'll have all our workspaces migrated. Yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up from our team here. So once that happens, we will have table level and field level lineage that we'll be able to see in Monte Carlo. We'll be better able to do root cause analysis. That'll be fantastic. What you can't see over here is Data Explorer. So that's another functionality in Monte Carlo. It lets you do a little deeper dive on the column level. It gets you a little bit more insights from what they see from a column level. It also gives you the ability to understand and say, hey, look, I could put a couple of different monitors based on the information you guys see there. I don't know if I see some Monte Carlo folks over here, but I would love to get, we do, yeah, there you go. We'd love to get query logs also somehow ingested, which would then give us the ability to have the performance dashboard over there, as well as we'd get some more insight into popularity, which means importance scores for tables that we ingest on Databricks, because then our stewards would be able to prioritize, hey, where do I go and focus on if I have alerts on like 5 or 6 or 10 tables. So super excited to kind of see where that goes. As my clicker is, there you go. And I promised I was going to talk about incident management. That's kind of my favorite topic here. So we all have incident management for our applications, for our pipelines. When things go wrong, there's an incident that's created somewhere. Someone gets assigned to it. Either you call somebody or there's a process that does that. You have a whole triage process around it. We wanted this for data. So that's kind of what we can get with Monte Carlo. And the goal is that we have a single pane of glass for everything data reliability related. And not just triaging. I think the thing that what we do here, or what we see here that we can do, is measure. So we can measure once the incident happened, how long did it take for someone to acknowledge it? How long did it take for someone to triage it? How long did it take someone to actually resolve the incident? We can do some historical analysis on how many incidents we had, severity of those incidents, root causes of those incidents, all that good stuff we get from incident management. Now, where are we going with our overall observability journey? Well, we've just started. The goal here, the thought process, at least from an onboarding perspective, we've got a little bit of a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, we are onboarding teams as they are to the platform and onboarding their data assets along with their stewards. But we're also onboarding very highly visible, critical data processes. And that could involve multiple teams. It's not going to involve the entire data pipelines that they're responsible for, but maybe for a subset of that. So we're doing a little bit of a two-pronged approach over there. We have tons of training sessions. Monte Carlo team and Databricks have helped us create a training path, which we are sharing with our teams. We are doing working sessions, office hours, you name it, to make sure that our teams are onboarding successfully. My favorite topic, again, I'm not going to go more into that other than say we want standardized notifications, standardized protocols, a standardized way to escalate issues from a data perspective, very similar to how we have from an application perspective or if a pipeline actually had issues. Some of the non-technical aspects of this also are making sure that we have proper protocols, roles and responsibilities that our stewards understand, our engineering teams understands. So we are building that as we go as well. And on the back of that, we want to put automation as exactly where wherever we can put in as best as possible. Putting in observability as a part of our development pipelines is the goal. and then providing self-service capabilities to some of our data engineering teams, as well as our stewards, to add more monitors without like having the data governance team sort of be in the middle is the overall goal. We're building towards that as well. And lastly, I did talk about metrics earlier in the previous slide. On top of this, we are trying to build an overall analytical system on Databricks, or analytical workspace on Databricks, where we will have data governance specific metrics. So here, teams could actually go and see their progress, see where some of the blank spaces are where they need to fill. And for us, it'll be like this one single hub for all metrics that are quality, literacy, catalog, glossary, stewardship related, which we can do better reporting and analytics on. So I hope like that was a very short speed talk on our overall journey. I hope that gave you an overview at least of what our journey was, what we've done, where we're going. I'm sure if you guys have questions, I will be around over here after that. I'll also be at the Monte Carlo booth for a little bit if you guys do want to step over there. Come join our team. We have some awesome folks sitting here, so thank you very much for coming. I also want to thank our data governance team back home, as well as our stewards back home. They've really been tremendous in helping us get to where we are at. But yeah, do come check us out. Have a chat with us. We're here to talk. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you guys coming.